You all may have heard of a man named Nick Vujicic. He was born without arms and without legs. This was a struggle for him throughout his childhood. And for a long, long time, he was very bitter against God, against his family, against everything, against life itself, because he was given such a struggle. However, when he was 17 years old, he decided to start a nonprofit for other children who were struggling with disabilities called Life Without Limbs. And he travels around and gives inspirational speeches to help these children learn to live with their struggle and to persevere with life, because there's a lot you can do in life even if you don't have arms and legs. This reminds me of a quote by Stanislaw Lee. He who limps still walks. I agree with Stanislaw Lee, because you always need to persevere in a struggle. For one thing, perseverance is a key to success. And for another thing, perseverance strengthens you. Perseverance is key to success. An example of this is Abraham Lincoln, who was elected to the Senate eventually, but for a long, long time before that, years and years, he kept trying to be elected to the Senate and was never elected because he had the whole slavery issue against him. However, eventually, after many, many terms of him trying to be elected, he was finally elected into the Senate, and soon afterward, he was elected to the presidency and is now one of the most famous presidents that America has ever had. He really persevered in his struggle. Another example of persevering in a struggle and then that struggle becoming your key to success is the Battle of Troy. The Trojans had the Greeks stacked up against them. The Trojans were outnumbered. They were in an unfamiliar territory, and the Greeks had a lot of advantages over them. But then the Trojans persevered and eventually had the breakthrough of the Trojan horse and were able to penetrate the barriers of the Greek city and gained a lot of ground, militarily speaking, against the Greeks because they persevered in their struggle against them. So, you always need to persevere in a struggle. Another reason you need to always persevere in a struggle is because perseverance strengthens you. An example of perseverance strengthening someone is in the book Holes. It's also a movie, which is well acclaimed. In this book, the character Stanley Yelnats is given a task by Madame Zeroni. She tells Stanley to start with a small pig and carry this small pig up the mountain. And then Stanley has to carry a bigger pig and carry it up the mountain. Every single day, he carries these pigs up the mountain. And eventually, Stanley becomes very, very strong. So that after the end of a year, Stanley is able to carry Madame Zeroni up the mountain and drink from the magic fountain, which will regain her youth. Now, regardless of what actually happened in the book, which was not that because Stanley Yelnats betrayed her, this is a good example of how perseverance will have strengthened him. Another example of how perseverance will strengthen someone is in the lyrics of Kanye West's song, Stronger. In this song, Kanye very wisely sings, that won't kill you can only make you stronger. Kanye is right. He recognizes that we should always persevere in a struggle. So, in review, as Kanye has explicitly said, we should always persevere to struggle, because perseverance is a key to success. In addition to that, perseverance strengthens you. Just like we see in the life of Nick Vujicic, who was born without arms or legs, but perseveres in his struggle of being limbless, he shows us that perseverance is the key to success and a good struggle.
That was the funniest.